Bob?
Okay.
Okay, so Bob O'Connell is
It's weird, but me.
on the phone,
excited.
so he can speak through the phone and he can raise his hand and we can see him in person. So we're going to need a note taker for these meetings. And we haven't had anybody sign up yet.
I'll take notes.
That would be great. And I think what Dick said when he did the initiative meeting was, and if this works for everybody, it works for me, which is we just have actions taken and votes. So
That's minutes, really.
yeah, and then
Emery, actually, what I said in that committee meeting was I proposed that they're just, the note taker just identify the subject discussed and then any action taken.
okay. That sounds good. Does that work for you, Sharon?
Yeah.
And Dick, does that mean that you make that note even if there isn't any action taken? You make a note of a discussion.
Right, that we talked about it.
Yeah, well, I think the not just, these are just summary minutes, and what I'm suggesting is there just be, a sentence that says this is the topic that was discussed. If no action was taken, that's all that's there. If any action was taken, which I can't imagine in our first meeting, then you note what the action was and what the vote was.
Okay, so Kevin Ranker is now joining us. Let's see, where'd he go? Oh, there he is. Okay. So he hasn't, I don't think he's turned anything on. So then, and of course, we're going to be recording the meetings and Catherine will post them on the website. We're going to stay with the simplified version of Robert's rules. Do we want this to be a public meeting?
How many people have we got? We don't need it to be.
Well, it doesn't have to be a public meeting because Bill Apple has pulled off. So we're at 8.
Oh.
But if we want it to be a public meeting, then I need to get it posted. Welcome, Kevin.
As long as no other committee member joins us, according to Randy, we're okay.
Right.
Because they constitute a quorum of the full committee.
Kevin has had some conversations with Randy about this. Do you want to say anything about that?
I need to differentiate between my inner voice and my outer voice. So we can go up to 8 and we're absolutely fine. Technically we could go to 9 or more and just advertise it as a public meeting, but because we're at 8, we're fine to go forward. I think we should be posting our link, which Catherine has said she will do for us, on the website and making that available so that if members of the public want to sit in on this committee, they can. But we don't need to advertise it. And right now we're not a quorum of the full commission. We're a subcommittee.
And my understanding is this was not advertised.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it was. I think,
right.
But we're at 8, so we're fine. We're fine to go forward right now.
Yeah.
And if anybody,
I have a question.
I was just going to say,
Sure.
technically, if anybody else joins from the commission, and I think it was Dick who brought this up with me, and I looked into it, and it is accurate. Another member of the committee, I would not recommend this, but another member of the commission could actually sit in on the meeting if they had their video off and they were muted, just to listen in. And that would, they would basically, it's the same way as in the Senate. You know, we would have a committee with like Ways and Means with 21 members. So 25 is a quorum. And you would have 10 members in the audience listening in on the deliberation. And it didn't matter. It's not a violation. So like I said, I'm not recommending we go there, but I think today we're fine, and we're fine as long as we have 8.
Okay, and Bob Connell wants to say something, and then Tom Starr.
Right, I just had a quick question, and I don't know whether this is a question of you, Anne-Marie, or Kevin, who was speaking on the issue just a second ago. But my question is, does the posting of the meeting, telling on our website, does that constitute making this a public meeting, or do we have to also advertise it in other ways?
Kevin, you want to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, if we advertise it, and by the way, also, we've been over advertising for the commission meetings. You only, if it's a regular, once it's a regular meeting, you only need to advertise it once. And so if we say that every Wednesday from 10 to noon, the Climate and Environment Committee subcommittee of the commission is meeting, and we advertise that once, going forward, as long as we don't change the start time, those are public meetties. And so then you could have more members.
Putting it on the agenda. I'm
What's that?
sorry. Does putting it on our site constitute that advertising, or do you have to do more?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little for me.
Bob, it doesn't work if you're trying to talk with your video on.
Oh,
But I like seeing you
Got
in the pretty picture behind you too.
He's
yeah.
he's I'll just say he did this for us at Justice and Equity yesterday or 2 days ago, and he's on a phone for audio and he's on a computer for video. So he did make it work okay. So he
Okay.
is separated now.
I had one other quick thing to
Okay,
add.
so Bob, did you finish your thought? Bob, did you have anything else there? Okay, I'm going to assume you didn't.
Everything's frozen. I
Go
don't know
ahead.
whether they can hear me or not.
We can hear you. Okay.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you if you have something else to say on that note.
I'm so sorry. I thought you all couldn't hear me. My question was whether you're not putting it on our website your one time, saying it's going to be every Wednesday or whatever, but just putting it on our website, does that constitute advertising it so that we have to make it a public meeting?
Okay, Kevin, want to respond?
Yeah, no, it does not. It needs to be advertised through the legal means, which is the 3 newspapers of record. But again, only once. It is recommended though, and I think it may be required, that we post our agendas on the website. The only thing I was going to add about what constitutes a quorum as well, Randy is looking into, he is concerned that if we were to have a meeting of 9 or more members of the subcommittee, that if we publicly advertise it, it doesn't necessarily constitute a violation of the Public Open Meetings Act. Excuse me. It could, he has concerns that then it's technically a meeting of the commission and the full commission would need to be there. That is the area where I disagree with him. And so it is not, if we publicly advertise it, it is not a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act. But he has raised a question of, if there's 9 of us or more, then isn't that a quorum of the full commission? And doesn't that constitute a commission meeting? I've spoken to other attorneys who solely focus on public meetings. That's all they do. And they both said that's not an issue as long as it's publicly advertised. Randy has another concern though, and he's our counsel. That said, we only have 8 on this committee right now. So who cares?
Okay, Tom Starr, did you want to say something back a few minutes ago?
No, I think the discussion has answered it. Thank you.
Okay, Dick.
Let's be clear, Kevin. A quorum of this group is not 9, it's 10. You have to have a majority. So Randy did 9 for safety, but even at 9, we would technically and legally be safe.
I agree with you. We have a prosecutor who's very safe.
Right.
Which frankly, is smart advice so that we don't get a challenge, which some of the things we're going to put forward will probably get challenged anyway. So.
Okay, so Liz, you wanted to say something?
So I'm inclined to want the public comment. So I wanted to hear from all of you the top pros and cons of doing that. I lean towards including that.
Okay. Thoughts on that? Dick?
I don't. I think subcommittee meetings are like work sessions. They're to get something done. And the bigger meetings are where we're going to bring public comment and we're going to do the 2 town halls. I think that we've got too much to do. And so we're not doing it in the other committees. The only reason it would come up here is because we're the largest committee. But still, we're legal. We don't need to be a public meeting, and I don't favor that.
Okay, Liz?
So my thinking out loud about this is that there's going to be a lot of people, I mean, let me say it this way. We already limit public comments so much, you know, in terms of the time that they're allowed to speak, and there's not back and forth. So it really, the impact on public comments so far in our full meetings has been what, maybe 7 minutes or something. So I think that with that caveat in mind, to include the public is valuable for them to be informing us as we go along.
Others?
Yeah, I'm okay with it either way. I just wanted to say that I thought we should have more public comment time on our Wednesday afternoon meetings, and we now extended those to 2.5 hours. Am I right about that? So maybe we'll have more time for public comment during those meetings.
5 to 6. Yeah, 2.5 hours. Okay, Bob? Yes.
I at first I was believing that we ought to not have any public at this meeting, and that we should save it for the big meeting. However, one advantage to having people come here is that everyone who comes to this committee will be wanting to comment on climate and environment, on our subject. If we leave till the big meeting to get comments, we're liable to get a bunch of comments that have nothing to do with the subject matter of our particular interest here. So if we're wanting, unless we make some sort of announcement in this town hall, the climate committee is going to reserve 20 minutes and wants to hear climate comments. Maybe we could do something like that in the town halls to keep this sacrosanct. But otherwise, we have to find a way to get climate and environment comments to us.
Other comments?
So,
Kevin?
I would just say that if the full commission meetings are an indication of what we'd see here, I don't think the number of people chiming in will be great. Now, my counterpoint to myself on that is, as word gets out of the work that we've been doing, I think more people, particularly on this subject, will want to chime in. And so I think Bob and Liz actually make a really good point, and Sharon as well, that maybe having some room for public comment is wise on this subject. And maybe we advertise it, you know, and put it on the website, and then see if people show up. And if 1 or 2 people show up, we ask them at the end if they would like to make a comment to us or not. I really appreciate what Dick is saying, which is this is our time to get to work and really dive into this. And so the vast majority of this meeting needs to be for us to be able to throw out ideas, start going through the details and working on them. And if we allow 10 minutes at the end, if people show up, then great. The other thing is I hope that our town halls will be well attended and we will get some significant comments on this subject at that point as well. So sorry to counterpoint myself there. I just I don't see a problem. I don't see a problem with it right now. Just if public shows up, if it starts to take too much time or people want to take too much time, we were maybe refer them to the town halls.
Okay.
Yeah, I was also thinking that we might want to have specific people come and present to us, people that have different areas of expertise in how to respond to the climate, you know, impacts happening here.
So what about this idea that after a period of time, we hold one that is a public meeting related to climate so that one of our Wednesday mornings is a public meeting when we have something that we've shared. How do people feel about that? Dick?
I like that. And the other thing I would say is let's do what we do in the big meeting and limit comments to 3 minutes. 3 minutes is plenty of time. And
Sure.
there've been a lot of public meetings where that's perfectly acceptable limit. And we ask people, if you've got some document you want us all to read, don't stand there and read it to us. Give it to us and we can all read it.
Okay. Other thoughts? Liz?
Does it work to like do a standing sort of once a month? We do that so people know the first Wednesday of the month, and we're going to allow a larger chunk for public comments. I'm just thinking this is the area where if we're going to propose changes in the charter, this may be the area that will have the most significant language changes, and we want community involvement in it. They'll need to sign off on it eventually. So the more we include them along the way, the more energy we'll have around passing what we think is a legitimate, lasting document.
Okay, let's hear from Kyle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I like that idea in structure, except I think to get people sort of on page with us, we will have made whatever progress over the course of months or weeks. There's an educational piece, I think. What I don't want us to see is to have someone come in and have ideas about environment or climate and present those, and we're over here and that idea is really over here. If people come in and can comment to what progress or what topics we've picked up so far, that's a different, I'm not really explaining myself well, but that's a very different environment than, if we entertain public input in the front part of the committee work, there'll be, presumably kind of more wide spectrum ideas that we could incorporate and then work from. If they come in later and those things don't fit where we've progressed, the challenge will be very different, and we run the risk of alienating people because we're not responsive anymore, if that makes sense.
Okay, Sharon?
Another thing is that we can do outreach to get input from people that we can then work on in these meetings, but not necessarily have the public in the meetings, but do the outreach in between the meetings and, ask for people who have expertise on this to come forward if they have anything they want to submit to us.
Dick?
And
then Bob.
I think Kyle is making a really good point, and I think what we will get, and so the idea that we have to educate the public a little bit before we do this, what we will get is a lot of people coming to us with policy ideas, and they're not going to understand that we can't set policy in the charter, that it's got to be the structure of county government. So that'll be important. Otherwise, we'll spend a lot of time listening to stuff we can't do anything about.
Okay. Do we need a motion on this? Liz, did you want to say something else?
Yes, sorry, I'm trying to collect my thoughts here too. I mean, I like what everyone is saying. But so Dick, again, some of my questions are more come from inexperience in government than they do with pushback on ideas. So hang on, sorry, let me find that thought. I've got a puppy whining. It's not working. I apologize.
Okay, why don't you take a couple seconds? And Bob, do you want to go ahead and speak?
Yes, I think that we ought to either ask our chair to designate one of our meetings coming up, the next one, the one after that, as a public input meeting that we totally advertise and try and get as many people in to talk about it. and we tell them in this advertisement that we're looking for the structure that somebody, maybe it was Dick, was pointing out, that structure that we're talking about, that we either do that or we maybe ask Kevin to take one of the meetings, what are they called?
Town hall.
The town halls, and give a specific segment of the town hall devoted to climate and environment, maybe 20 minutes, something like that, and advertise that and tell people that we are going to take climate and environment type input from you during 20 minutes. Please come fully prepared to talk to us. And remember that, what Dick said about we're not looking for policy. The town council about policy. So I think we do one of those two things.
Okay, Liz, back to you, then to
Thank
Tom
you.
Starr.
I remember my question is basically, Dick, this is to you. Isn't part of our job to take, so if the public does come and talk to us and it's not about, policy or nuts and bolts, is part of our job to translate what their concerns and, the promise they're looking to make to their community and for us to put in place? Is that part of our job to then translate that into the nuts and bolts on behalf of our constituents?
My frank answer would be no. But I see your point that people might not be able to articulate it that way. And so I like the idea, well, it's kind of a combination of Kyle and Bob, that we wait until after the first town hall. We use the town hall to explain to people what the Charter Commission can and cannot do. And then we set one of our meetings where we're going to allow, I don't know, a half hour for public comment. That's at 3 minutes a piece. That's 10 people. I'd be amazed if we get 10 people. But then people would have been at least a little bit primed and would know what to expect and what we can and can't do. I'm sorry, Liz, I just don't think we have time to sit and be a listening post for people to talk about things that we really have little or no ability to do. I want to focus on what we can do, but that's
Let's hear from Tom Starr.
I like what Dick said. So are you ready for a motion?
Sure.
I move that we postpone our public and listening on our meetings until after the first public hearing, at which time it will be announced how people can join our regularly published Wednesday morning meeting.
So postpone our public meeting until after the first town hall, where where it is explained to them what the Charter Review Commission can do, and then following that, at our next committee meeting, we have an open period of a half an hour, say, where people can participate. That pretty much sum it up?
I wasn't going to go that far. I was going to say we announce how they can listen to our meeting.
That doesn't get it.
Dick.
I would propose an amendment to that motion, which would be take what Tom just said and then add to that periodically we would open it to that kind of public comment. So we're not just limiting it to one meeting, but as we get to points where we think that would be useful, choose to do a public meeting again.
Great.
Point of order, you need a second on the original motion before you can accept amendments or have discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have a second on the original amendment?
Can we hear the original amendment again? Because I think there was some shifting around about what it was. I mean, the original motion.
The original motion, Tom?
Okay, well, so I move that we postpone public involvement in our subcommittee meetings until such time, which will be probably the first CRC general public meeting, can be explained to them our procedure.
Question on that, is that the first town hall or the first CRC meeting?
The first town hall, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I second that as.
Can I
Okay.
read, since I'm taking notes here, I want to read back to you what I have written and tell me if I have this right or if I need to change anything. Okay, so Tom's motion, I have to postpone public meeting until after the first CRC town hall, where we can explain what the CRC can and cannot do, and then we announce how people can listen into our meetings, or some of our
Yeah.
meetings.
I like that.
Okay, so we have a second. Discussion? Yes, Kevin?
I still like the idea of a combination where, so I would support the motion. Part of it I really like, which is let's get to work. First of all, I mean, we've spent, 30 minutes talking about getting to work. So let's get to work and start diving into some of the ideas that have been put forward by ourselves and other members of the commission. And then announce at the town hall that we are meeting as a subcommittee and the public is welcome to listen in. And then I would say that I would not want the motion, however, to negate our ability or stop our ability to have a separate subcommittee public meeting. I liked Anne Marie's suggestion that let's dive in, get to work, and then a few meetings down the road, we can have this group take public comment as well. On to Bob's point and Dick's point as well, just on this subject. So if that is allowed within the motion, then I'm supportive of the motion. If we need to amend the motion to say that we would potentially have a future subcommittee public meeting, then I would put that forward. But for me, that seems to be within the motion as it sits. I just want to make sure that others feel that way.
Do you want me to read it back one more time?
Sure.
Motion to postpone public meeting until after the first CRC town hall, where we can explain what the CRC can and cannot do, and then we announce how people can listen into some of our meetings or subcommittee meetings.
Okay, Bob? Go ahead. Go ahead,
All right.
Bob.
All we have there is some people listening in. There's nothing about us getting any comments or any ideas from the public in that motion that Sharon just read back. I can't support that motion. Kevin suggested that we add something that talked about specifically about us getting public comment. A motion like that, it sort of devalues public comment. But anyway, that's what I have to say.
Okay, Dick, you had your hand up. Did you want to say something? And then Kevin?
I was just going to propose, in the interests of getting into some of our ideas, that maybe I'll volunteer. It's kind of been Kyle, Kevin, and I who have been piecing this thing together to try to write a motion that recognizes the concerns like Bob just raised and others have raised, and bring it to the next meeting, drafted, so that we have something to look at instead of, we might spend the next hour wordsmithing this. I'd
Right.
rather get into what we're doing.
Okay, so, yes, Kevin, sorry.
I have a friendly amendment that I think might address it right now. And if not, I go with what Dick said, which is
Okay,
table the motion. I would say we change two words. First of all, in the beginning of the motion, we make it a positive instead of saying we will postpone, we say we will hold.
Yeah.
And then we change listen to participate, which does not necessarily say they won't have public comment or they will, but they're participating in our meeting. Both make the motion positive, enlighten, people get to listen in and participate with it. So
Okay.
those would be my 2-word amendment.
okay, Sharon, do you want to go back and read that then, or do you want
Yeah.
to hear it again?
Second to this,
Oh, do we need to take a vote on the amendment, or I'll just
Yes.
read it back first?
there needs to be a second on the friendly amendment. And then if there is a second, there's a vote to
Second.
accept the friendly
Okay,
amendment.
Sharon seconded it.
Okay, So under discussion sharing, you can read it back.
Okay. Motion to hold public meeting after the first CRC town hall where we can explain what this, yeah, okay, blah, blah, blah. Let me try again. Motion to hold public meeting after the first CRC town hall where we can explain what the CRC can and cannot do. And then we announce how people can participate in some of our climate and environment subcommittee meetings.
Okay. Tom and Bob and Liz.
You know, I like the amendments, but I also would like to offer a reality check. 8 years ago, when we had subcommittee meetings, they were right after, on Saturdays, they were right after, they were at an intermission in the big meeting. And we were lucky to have 2 or 3 people show up on Lopez or Orcas or San Juan to listen to the whole affair. So let's not get too overblown that we're going to be thronged with people to want to testify. But I think we're on the right track with these motions, but I just wanted to
Okay.
offer that.
Bob and then Liz.
I just want to ask whether it's not the case that if the maker of the motion accepts this, what Kevin said, accepts the friendly amendment, then we don't have to vote on the friendly amendment. We just vote on the total amendment with Kevin's friendly amendment added,
Okay.
right? So does the maker accept that friendly amendment? Was it?
Tom,
wasn't
are
it
you
Dick?
accepting Kevin's amendment?
Yes, I accept that.
Okay. Liz, did you
I
have
think
something
just vote
else?
on the amendment, the whole thing.
Okay.
That's all.
Liz, did you have something else you wanted to say?
I just want to celebrate what Tom was saying, that that'll be a great problem to have if we have too many people
Okay.
wanting to speak.
Are we ready to vote on the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, looks like everybody's in. Okay,
I have
Motion
a
carries.
quick, I have a quick unrelated question. Can you all hear my puppy whining?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
Sorry.
yes.
okay. So, okay, so we've talked
I
about
thought,
the
I
public
thought that was me, but it was your puppy. Okay.
meeting.
She's settling, but I'll keep myself muted.
Okay, so now we're at the point in the agenda where we're going to go around as committee members and talk about why we joined this committee and what our desired outcomes are going to be. Remembering that we have to adjourn in about an hour, and we want to get to a place where we can talk about what the next steps for the next meeting are. So not too elaborate. I thought we could start at the top of the alphabet with Sharon, unless that is not comfortable for people and people would rather go a different way. Sharon, is that good for you?
Yeah, good.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just updating the motion to take, because I had put in both sets of words. So
Okay.
if we had to go back to it, but I just took them out and I stuck
Would
it in
you
the chat.
rather me start with somebody else?
That's okay. You just tell me
Tell
what
us
you want
why
me to
you
say.
joined the committee and
Why
kind
did
of
I join
like
this thing? Like I don't have enough to do. Yeah. Well, most of you know, I've been doing climate change education for over 20 years now, and I have quite a breadth of perspective because I worked with the trade union delegation to the UN Commission on Sustainable Development for 10 years. So I have good trade union perspective on sustainable development and and the concept of just transition, which is something that I've really been trying to educate people about, is how we create jobs in sustainable fields and replacing jobs in unsustainable fields. And that sustainability is both economic and environmental. So I've been really concerned about this for over 20 years. And I just thought, let me see what I can bring to this committee, and really want to work with all of you on it.
Okay. So then how about you, Kyle?
Thank you. I'm going to guess overall that a lot of us share some of the same sort of fundamental concerns about climate and environment. So that's all in place already. But for the 25 plus years I've been here, I've been interested in sort of county adoption of the importance of renewables and sort of self-rule around that topic to a certain extent. I think the biggest one, I have two big ones for me right now. One is climate migration, and what we've seen in terms of real estate and changes or pressures on the county just from people appreciating that this is something of a there's an extra importance here because it is because of the natural environment that's here and because it's sort of separated from the rat race. And that kind of informs the second one. The second piece, and I've learned so much from folks like Bill Apple. It's very easy to focus on content when in fact we have to work on structure. And so my interest in the committee is also to sort of learn myself about how we make some of these concerns structural protections or at least recognitions in county, in the charter specifically, in order to take ethical values and make them create some defense. And one of the things there that came up in one of our other committees was the importance of something like the comprehensive plan. And so I think we do a lot of work in the county already around the topic, making sure that it's represented in this level of government. It's important to me.
Great. Dick, do you want to share your thoughts? Unmute yourself.
Okay. I think climate change is the single most important thing facing all of us, the whole world. So this committee is really important to me. But I'm kind of following on what Kyle said. I'm very focused on what we can actually accomplish as a CRC and what our legal limits are. And I want us to come up with proposals for the voters that actually have a chance of passing. So I come at this as trying to be very pragmatic about what we can accomplish. And I don't personally have any grand ideas. I think there are things we can do within the county, but we have limitations. I mean, we're this one small county. And I want to try to help us get to things that we actually can accomplish. I'm not that interested in the kind of preamble language that will sound really nice, but won't do much for us. I want to focus on what we can do.
Okay, great. Liz, how about you?
So as some of you heard me say in other meetings, in 2014, I joined a group of about 30 people and to walk from Los Angeles to Washington, DC. And those 9 months through hundreds, and hundreds of communities across this country. The story was similar. So it was different issues, whether it was air, water, food. But the message behind it was the shock that people had that their local government, their state government, their federal government did not protect them. And the devastation that then led to in their personal lives, from their businesses to their health, to their children's health, and over again of where government at all levels did not protect the people or give them the power to protect and make choices that would protect the health of their environment and their community. So I'm all in to figure out how to write a document that has teeth for our ability to really self-govern.
Great. And that would move us to Bob O'Connell.
Well, I am completely with Liz on, and I think probably Sharon, on and probably all of you though, on the importance of this issue to all of us. And we've got to do something about it. You know, we've got to not just talk about it, we've got to do something about it. And now Dick raises the problem of charging at it and not really coming up with things that are, you know, structural changes in our government that will allow us to do the things that we want to see done. Okay. Now, as some of you may know, I had an idea, and that idea is other people have had the same idea, I think, or at least part of it, about a county advocate for the environment, and what that person could do and how that person could be empowered to see to it that what comes out of our government ends up both protecting our environment and trying to ensure that we do what we can locally to affect climate change. Now, you know, there are certainly gigantic limits because we're a local government, but this is the place to start. This issue and this committee, this was my number one choice for a committee. I think this issue is going to resonate with the county public like no other issue. I've heard people talking about it, not in regards to the charter, but just generally about how something has to happen. And I think we may be surprised if we let people know we're here and that we want to take this issue seriously. We may be surprised by the reaction and how many people show up and either to give us ideas or to support the ideas we have. So, yeah, you know, I want to go for it.
Sounds
All right.
good. Okay, Bob, thank you. Tom Starr, how about you? What would you like to share? Oh, no, I forgot Kevin. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let's go to Kevin first. I'm trying to keep this alphabetical. And then we'll come back to you, Tom, okay?
Okay.
I echo a lot of what's been said. I think we all deeply care about and are interested in this topic. Going back to Dick's comment, I want to put forward some actions, some actionable recommendations. We'll put it that way. The difference between shall and should was one of the first and hardest lessons I ever learned in politics. And it was a year into being a county commissioner when I put forward the first ever, it was going to be an ordinance for climate change in San Juan County in 2008. And I was convinced that I should do a resolution instead. And the resolution had a lot of really big, bold ideas in it. And a handful of years later, I looked back and almost none of them have been implemented. Actually, none of them have been implemented. And one of the things was that the county fleet would have an average miles per gallon of whatever it was, and that we would start moving toward hybrids and electric vehicles and so on. And I remember talking to Bill Cummins and saying, hey, Bill, ever since we passed that resolution, all you've done is buy big fat SUVs for the sheriff's department. What's up? And he said, well, I looked at your resolution and said, thanks for sharing. Resolutions have no teeth whatsoever, period. Resolutions are passed to celebrate somebody's birthday. Ordinances are passed to do something. And so back to Dick's point from the previous conversation, we are creating structure, not ordinances, but there are structures that we can put in place in San Juan County that will allow for bold actions to take place. And that's what I want to look at.
So let's all mute if we're not speaking, except for me and now Tom Starr.
Okay, thank you. Well, I've been kind of puzzling over the notion of, for example, what should be in the preamble and what sort of ideas like Bob has proposed for a county advocate. And I keep reminding myself that I think the charter is the domain for how we govern, not the domain for things like climate change, environmental issues, housing issues, health issues, the economy. Those issues are brought up in places that I've been as a county commissioner, as a planning commissioner, as one of the very, very many committees that get appointed. So I'm a little bit wary of putting too much of the issue-oriented items in the charter. And I've read I read Clallam County, I've read King County, that those kind of things don't seem to be in there. And I also am advised by our prosecuting attorney, I read his message again last night, and about sticking to governing issues and not issues like I just mentioned. So that's kind of where I'm at, but I'm in this committee because I want to hear from you all about this, and we'll see where I stand in the end.
Okay, that sounds good. And I'll just wrap up with my thoughts, which are, like many of you, or all of you, we all share the concern about the climate and the environment and what's happening here. And I personally don't see enough action. We thought it was important enough to have county councilors. We thought it was important enough to have a treasurer, to have an auditor, to have all of these other offices. And yet, what is the most important thing that's going to impact our environment and our lives in the next 10, 20, 30 years? There are lots of entities in our government that can help with this. And I don't think that the current structure has the bandwidth to take on and to make action happen here. So I do have a position that I would like to see put forward. Doesn't mean I'm not into consensus, doesn't mean I can't be moved. I'm just saying, I really want to see somebody in charge of this. I want to see somebody take the helm and have a group, an advisory group with them, working to make this happen across the government, across the county, with our nonprofits, our for-profits. If we're going to electric cars, how are we getting those batteries here? How are we reusing them? What's the infrastructure? Let's make it happen. So that's my soapbox. I'll close it down now. Okay, so we all learned a little bit. Do we want to now talk about what we think the next steps should be? Kevin, unmute.
Yeah, I do think that, and Tom, I really appreciate your point. Some clarification on kind of what we can and can't do, I think is really important. And Tom, I actually have researched quite a bit on exactly this subject based on what Anne Marie put forward. The charter very clearly, I will say it this way, it is very clearly within our scope, and I've said this to Randy too, we can create agencies, we can create new departments, we can create new elected positions, we can make positions unelected. That is within our scope. The policy side is not. So we have it absolutely within the charter's scope. It is very clear we could create independent, to Anne Marie's point, you could create an independently elected climate commissioner. We cannot, and we could say, we can go as far as saying that person is full-time. That person will have, a department, that person, or maybe we could say some of the positions in public works or planning will come into that department. We can do all of that. What we can't do is dictate what that person will do. And if you look at King County, for instance, they've created some new commissions. Other counties have in the past. I had a conversation this last week with Dave Summers, the county executive in Snohomish County, Charter County, who was on their charter commission in the past, about similar stuff they've done. So one of the reasons I ran for this position is to push us to think about what we can do with the charter, but also to make sure that we're realistic. Tom, to your point, there are some things we can't do, which is we're not getting into the policy side. We're creating the structure that will allow policies to take place.
Other comments? Bob? Go ahead.
Okay, I get to this part with some hesitancy because I really want this idea to be considered, but I don't want people to get the wrong idea. Kind of what you said, I think, Anne Marie, earlier, that you've got an idea and it doesn't mean it has to be your way, but you would like your idea considered. So that's where I am, and I have a very specific amendment that is all written out and says where it would be stuck in and everything to create this county. I'm sorry, I need to take this off.
Yeah.
There. That would create the a county advocate for the environment. When the time is right, I would like to present this possible amendment for discussion and as a point of departure and what we'll do and what we'll not do. I'm hearing a lot of support for the part of the idea that is the biggest part, which is the creation of a department headed by a person who has a responsibility to watch out for these things. And that person, in whatever way we dictate, I suppose, would develop policy, not our policy, but that person's policy. And that would be an elected position. I would like, when the appropriate time comes, I would like to be able to bring this amendment forward and to make a motion that be adopted and to have it debated.
Okay. Tom,
Well, I'm interested, Bob, and I just have a follow-up question for you. So the county, we create an advocate for the environment, has its own salary and some sort of a job description. The job description is what I'm curious about. Could you expand on that?
Well, yes, I can, and it is somewhat extreme. Okay, and I think this is an extreme question to call it.
okay, so
Sorry.
let's mute if we're not talking.
So sorry.
And Tom asked me the question, so I suppose we should wait until he comes.
Right. Here he is.
So sorry.
Here he is. So this is a strong. It's strong and right. Strong as how heavy it is. This would be an elected position, and the person would have the following duties. This would be at a minimum: to recommend to the county council the passage of such county ordinances and resolutions as shall seem advisable for the protection of every facet of the Sea and the San Juan County environment. B, to review existing county ordinances and resolutions and to recommend to the county council the repeal or amendment of any which would unnecessarily endanger that environment. And C, to veto any newly passed county ordinance or resolution which would have the effect of unnecessarily endangering our environment. Then the county council could override the veto with the unanimous vote, and then any such veto override would be the subject of the referendum process, process which would be undertaken by the advocate or any other qualified resident. So there you go. That's all structure. That doesn't say what policies this person has to adopt, but clearly about the protection of the environment and the unfortunate effect that human beings have on it.
Great. And I think you shared that with the whole commission at one point, didn't you, Bob? I think you shared that document with the whole commission, didn't you?
I thought that I did, but that would be a question.
Yes.
That would be a question asked to the
Yeah.
Let me see it and never look at it.
Right, early on. Okay. Tom, what did you want to add?
Well, I just wanted to.
I certainly can. I'm sorry. But
Okay.
I just wanted to follow up with Bob again. So for 35 years, I've been dealing with environmental ordinances here in the county, and my cohort in this business, Dick Grout, is familiar with them as well. And so there must be some deep-seated satisfaction that particularly Bob has about the county's environmental review processes, the state's environmental review processes. And so I would like to hear more about those deficiencies that someone feels are in play.
Okay. So Kevin, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I would say that, so this is obviously this idea of a position, and an independently elected position is one of the tasks that's being, or one of the issues that's been before this subcommittee. I think maybe for structure, if I may suggest, Madam Chair, maybe we should list out all the different ideas that we think are before us, and then each meeting we can start diving into them. Right now, we're diving into what I think is going to end up being one of the biggest discussions we have, which is good. But I think there's some other ideas that have come up as well. So there's one point I wanted to make. And then to throw a wrench in what I just said, I do think that we need some review on some of what Bob put forward. Bob, I love your idea. I will say that legally, we do not have the ability to create one elected official who would have veto authority over another elected official. So there are some mandates in state law about duties that are assigned to the legislative branch, in our case, the county council, and we can't change those. So I think all in all, your concept is great. I think some of the specifics, we may have some third rail topics, but that's what we can get into when we have the discussion. So again, my suggestion would be that maybe in the remaining, 40 minutes of this meeting, we try and list out some of the different subjects that we want to dive into. Just a suggestion, Madam Chair. Sorry to.
No, that's kind of the next steps. What information do we need and what other things do we want to kind of get to? So do you want to, Kyle, go ahead.
Thank you. It's a slightly different topic. So if there was more closure with that, I'm happy to wait.
No, that's fine.
Okay. In terms of people I'd like to hear from, and I appreciate that we have some of this knowledge and experience in this committee, which is great. So at least I would appreciate moving forward either time for this conversation or room to bring in folks. I was moved when the auditor, when Auditor Henley spoke the other day about to the degree to which the comprehensive plan is utilized or sort of followed or understood when it comes time to decision making. And I would love to explore that. To what degree is that true? We have some very robust things in the county already, some groups of people, some motivated citizens, and some really great work on paper, the transportation plan, lots of other things. I would like to better understand how those are used or not used to inform decision-making and direction. Because I think in addition to anything else we talk about, if that's not functioning as intended, then I think that there's work to do at that level. And, I don't claim, I'm not suggesting that it's dysfunctional, but I think there is a belief out there that there might be room to shore that up some. So I'd like us to spend some time with that. And if that means before we meet next time, thinking of, who specifically I would like to have talk to us, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
I hope we all would.
Okay, that's a good idea. Sharon.
It's excuse me. It seems to me that in our county, as in many other places, we are always struggling between economy and environment. And I'd like to see where in the charter we can impact and kind of harmonize that struggle, because that's the very unfortunate part of human activity, that in order for us to profit economically, the environment often suffers. And I know that, I think I'd be fair to say that in the past, the county council has sided more with the economic interest than the environmental interest. So how, this is a big deal for us. What do we want this county to be? How can we make it more economically sustainable and do a better job of protecting our environment? And one other thing I want to say, just as one example of something that I know, I don't know if you all know Russell Barsh, of Kwiat and the Salmon Islands Marine Health Observatory, he was struggling so much with the BLM because of, we were so excited we got this federally declared national monument here, and then they want to open it up for recreation and allow people to trample all over the island, where birds are nesting, where native plants are trying to grow. We're struggling, with the federal government here. And that's brought into my mind the idea of a local ordinance, because I've heard of these things before, whereas a local ordinance that says, this is the law of our land. This is what we do here. And, that may not be constitutional, but it's what I know communities around the country are trying to do, because there are things that are unconstitutional that are really damaging people's communities. I mean, things that are constitutional that are damaging people's community. And then there's nothing you can do except declare something that flies in the face of what's constitutionally illegal. So I'm just tossing out some stuff.
Okay, sounds good. Others? Liz?
I'm very interested in seeing how the charter can be closely coupled with the comp plan, so that those two documents are working tightly together to reinforce the well-being of our environment and our citizenry. To have that comprehensive plan be a document that is tightly, I don't want to say enforced, I don't know if that's the right term or not, but so much energy and resources goes into creating those comp plans, and that's where we really hear from the people about what they want, how they want their communities look, how they want to be governed, how they want the environment, how they want their communities, the housing, it's all in there. So to have this document and that document reinforce and reflect each other, I'd like to look at how we can best do that.
Anyone else? So maybe between now and next, say over the weekend, let's say Sunday, we'll get a list together. People can submit some ideas to me specifically on what we just talked about. And we can talk at the next meeting about where we think it needs to go from there. Does that sound like a way forward? Sharon, you want to say something?
I just want to say I'm taking notes more
Okay.
than minutes. So I have notes on all the things we've been talking about if people want them.
Okay, so maybe, I don't know what your timeline's like, but do you want to share those and then we could have people respond?
Yeah, I could send them, I could just send a Word file or whatever
Sure.
I can email it to all of us.
That sounds good. Other thoughts? Okay. Kyle, go ahead.
I had two quick things, see if I can remember both. One, on one of the other subcommittees, committees, we said that with everyone's blessing, we could store the minutes / notes and the recordings in the file section of Teams, in addition to maybe emailing them around. So I offered to do that, and also I offered to do a quick kind of a reminder session after our main meeting this afternoon for anybody who wants a Teams refresher. And then I just wanted to pose to everybody here, there's been some conversation already around where we host people we want to hear from. So there will certainly be folks that are specific to climate and environment related topics. I'm not picking one, but if we say that we want to bring people in, is that exclusively to this group, or how do we decide do we basically make the list for next week, then talk about those people, and then decide if we hear them at the committee level or at the commission level?
It seems to me one of the benefits we have is the chair of the commission is on this committee. So
He
we
doesn't
could
think
kind
so.
of, because some of it'll be big enough that we'll want them, I think, before the whole commission. And that this could be one piece of that. But Kevin, why don't you go ahead?
I was just gonna say that if Kyle or anybody else brings anybody cool enough before this committee as a recommendation, I may just steal them and say, let's put them on the full commission agenda.
Okay.
In all seriousness, if it's somebody who I think their presentation will add great value for everybody to hear, then we may just say, hey, let's bump them to the full commission. Or frankly, maybe they do both. Maybe they do a presentation to us just on the climate side, and then they could do a presentation to the commission on how that relates to the full charter amendments.
Okay. So Kyle, going back to what you said, the first thing was to have the minutes and the recordings in a team file for us. And I have not worked with Microsoft Teams, so I have no idea how that works, which may be the subject of another, it sounded like you might be meeting with some people after our meeting this evening, like after 6:30.
Yeah, I just offered that. What I'd like to address is where to put our thoughts and kind of the tracking of our work so that anyone else can see it, any of the other commission members. And
That sounds like a
maybe
good
that's
idea.
someplace else. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to make sure that that repository starts.
Okay, yeah. Dick?
Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's a decision that probably ought to go to Kevin, Olivia, and Catherine, because that affects all the committees. And either they can make that decision or they can come back with a proposal to the full commission. Either way, I don't care. I'm happy with them making that decision. But that's something that needs to be uniform.
Okay,
If
go ahead, Kevin.
I think if Kyle wants to help put things in notes on Teams, I frankly hate Microsoft. That's a strong word, but after they created Teams and their different platforms, I hated them worse. So if Kyle or somebody else wants to help put the notes from this subcommittee up on Teams so that others can read it, I actually think that's value added. You said you're going to be doing that for another. I think the suggestion would be made to the other subcommittees to try and do that, and where they can, great. I'd like to see it be uniform, that everybody's meeting notes are up there. If there's some that can't pull it off, I'm learning quickly that I and Olivia and Catherine can't make every commissioner just jump when we say jump. So I would say, Dick, I appreciate your point that it should be uniform, and we'll try and get there. But in the meantime, let's do a whatever of the willing.
Sure.
Okay. So what I've heard so far is that Sharon has taken some notes for us, which she's going to share. People are welcome to add to those if they have other areas or ideas of things that we need to be discussing. We're going to try to get that together by Sunday. We're also going to look at the idea of who we would like to hear from. And we can either, you can shoot us all an email on that if you have a list of people. And then at the next meeting, we can start kind of looking at that as well as these other items and identifying and prioritizing them. Other thoughts? Yes, Tom. And then Dick?
Well, I guess this is another reality check that I've been to several general CRC meetings. I'm just overwhelmed at the number of topics.
Uh-huh.
And it looks like we're going to have quite a few on our plate as well. And I think there comes a point in time where we need to have maybe an election and vote on the top X number of topics, not only in this committee, but in the CRC, in the big committee.
Okay.
We did that pretty early on 8 years ago. And
Okay.
we had a bunch on the table and we narrowed it down to less than 10 in total.
So if we begin that process within our committee and maybe we take 2 forward,
Yeah,
that would really help as we're kind of narrowing down the scope of the entire CRC.
right.
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin, you had your hand up. Did you want to say something? And then Kyle, and then, I'm sorry, Dick, you were actually going next.
Yeah. I think I'm a little bit surprised actually by this discussion, because when we did the initial brain dump from everybody in the CRC and we had that whole list of ideas and proposals, there was a lot on climate, and
Right.
really only two of them have come up today. And what I would like to see, kind of expanding on what you asked for, Anne Marie, is that everybody, having heard this discussion, if you have a specific idea of something you would like to see done in the charter related to climate, put it down in writing in whatever we all share by Sunday. And then we have some specific proposals to look at the next meeting.
Excellent. That's very good. And I think going back to some of the other ideas will be important. I actually have some of them stacked right here. Okay, so then Kyle and Kevin, you both wanted to say something?
I was basically going to say similar to what you're already suggesting, Anne Marie, and what Dick brought up, which is like, let's list them all out. And to Tom's point, absolutely. Like, we can't tackle 20 or 30 topics. We're going to need to narrow it down. So I think first we start with the broader list, and then we on this subcommittee prioritize which one by vote. Even we just say, and some of us will be sad because our topic may not get support of everybody else. Bummer. We at some point we've got to make those tough choices. That is my plan, just so you all know, for the full commission in the near term. But we're not done listing the different items yet. So
Okay,
my hope is that very near term for the full commission, we'll be doing that as well.
okay.
After we hear back from the subcommittees, my hope is the subcommittees will tackle a lot of that.
Kyle, did you want to say something else?
I was going to just ask if, to Tom's point, if that needed to be moved by the group, probably down the road is more formal. But what comes up right now then is, I mean, we've talked about kind of maybe filtering in some way, but at least opening periodically to public comment. If we do solidify and have, you know, a top two, top three, we kind of neuter that process, I think. So, you know, we have to be really careful and maybe overt about that intention to people. So there's no again, to kind of, so we don't end up getting, I don't want to, on top of everything else we're doing, I don't want to initiate any kind of public distaste with CRC or the process, because we're just another, you know, just sort of another grinded machine, I guess, of government. So I'd ask us to be aware of that and do whatever outreach that's needed to make sure we establish a reasonable public expectation on that.
Okay. Sharon?
Yeah, just regarding this discussion, maybe we see how things are, you know, going 4 weeks from now, and see how focused in we are on certain things, and see if, you know, this is true of all the subcommittees. See how far along we are in a month.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, Liz.
Just want to suggest some version of ranked choice voting on the subjects.
So you want to say a little bit more on that?
Just so that we're not taking important things off of the table entirely. We're just prioritizing, and then hopefully that helps motivate us to move quicker,
Okay.
you know, to, you know, get to as many as we can. We don't just simply take them off the table. We try to
Okay.
prioritize them and move as far as we can, as fast as we can.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Other things we need to discuss? Are we, did somebody have their hand up? Yeah, Sharon.
Oh, I
then
just wanted
Kyle.
to know, how should we go about listing things that we want to focus in, or people we want to bring in? Are we going to do that in Teams? Or are we going to do that by email?
Am I still on?
Yes, you're still on. I would suggest that we do it in our email
Okay.
to our committee.
Yeah.
So, and then I can pull it all together. And if you send us 3 names, Kyle can see those, and it might stimulate another thought for him, but it might take somebody off his list, so that by the time I pull them all together on Sunday, you know, we've got 5 or 6 people, or maybe 2, you know, depending on where we're going. And that may expand as we move into other discussion areas. That would just be my thought. Yes, Liz.
I wanted to look back to Kyle's point about having people present to us.
Right.
and How do we go about that? And my question, I think it's directed pretty much towards Tom, you and Dick, about who would be the best people to speak to us about how well the two documents have reinforced each other, supported each other. Like, who do you know that we would invite to come speak to that specifically? And not necessarily answer the question right now, but how do we want to do that process of who we're going to bring to speak to us?
So, Dick, did you want to respond?
Well, just trying to respond to what Liz is just asking.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I would think that if you have a name to put forward, you do that and give us a sentence or two or three about why you think, what value does that person bring to what we are trying to do? And then as a group, we would decide, okay, is that a priority? Is that one of the people we want to hear from?
Okay, does that clarify that? Yes, okay. Kyle, did you have anything else?
I was just going to tease that it appeared we were on or ahead of schedule, and I'm really unsettled by that.
Well, I don't want you to worry about that. We're going to run a tight ship. Okay,
I think you're right. I think Kyle is
my
way
hand
too
up,
optimistic.
oh, I'm sorry. Bob, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, first of all, I want to apologize. I've totally lost everything but the audio back and forth on my telephone. So that's why I can't put my hand up like that.
No worries.
I just wanted to ask, and maybe you already said this.
We can't hear you. So Bob, we have lost contact with you at this point. Okay. I'm not sure if he's going to try to come in another way or not. Did anyone else have anything else they wanted to add while we wait and see if Bob's coming back in? Okay, I think we may be ready to adjourn the meeting. Do people feel like they're ready to adjourn the meeting? Do I need a motion to adjourn?
I'm just thinking
Yes.
we will give Bob a chance to come back in, just out of
Okey-dokey.
respect for the early
Sure enough.
techno challenges.
Okay, Kevin?
I was just gonna, if you could clarify for us our tasks, Madam Chair.
Okay, so
By Sunday, we would get you potential presenters and our ideas.
right, based on Sharon's going to forward her notes, which should help trigger some of your ideas. And as Dick said, we're going to go back to that list that we got when everybody put their ideas together on paper and see if there's some things on there that we haven't added. And maybe we don't feel like those are discussion items.
Right.
So we're going to do that. And I'm going to pull all that together. And then we're also going to have the people that we think we would like to talk about certain things that we know right now. And then at the next meeting, we'll prioritize somebody's, here's just a second here. Let me get Bob back in. Let's see if I get him. Let me close this. Hold on for just a minute here. Where'd he go? I thought he was awake. Bob, are you back in?
Yeah, I'm not there anymore.
You're here. We can hear you.
Oh, good. Thank you. I was completely gone for a while. I'm sorry to be such a problem, but the Wi-Fi here gone fluey. did you, Anne-Marie, did you get the gist of my last question to you?
No, we couldn't hear you at all.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was wondering, do we want to do the same thing with topics that you are having folks do with their list of people to invite to talk or guest speakers?
Yes,
Do we
that's
want
what
to
we
do
were-
the same thing?
yes, that's what we were just wrapping up the meeting with. Sharon's going to send
Oh.
out her notes, which will trigger the thoughts on topics because we will have captured some of that. And then we're going to also look at the list that we got at the regular Charter Review Commission and the area of climate and environment and see if there's anything in there that we needed to include that we didn't include. And then at this point in time, we're going to identify people we think might be valuable, and we're going to identify why we think they might be important to speak to us on this particular issue. How's that sound?
That sounds great. I'm not sure I fully understood. Are you wanting us also to let you know after we have reviewed those things, which topics you think, which 2 or 3 topics we think the committee ought to take up?
We'll probably do that at the meeting,
Okay,
at the next meeting.
I got it.
And we're going to try to turn those back around so that by the time you come to the meeting, as Liz said, you've ranked your priorities, but doesn't mean that we
Okay.
disregard anything.
That's great. Okay.
Okay, so does that sound like a way forward to everybody? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay, we're good to go? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Okay, I
Second.
have a second? Okay,
Second.
great
What-
being with you. Yes,
Let me-
Sharon?
Point of order. Should I be writing down who's making the motions? I think probably yes.
Yes. So Tom, motion to adjourn, and Kevin, second. Dick?
Who's motion to adjourn? Tom
Tom,
and Kevin second.
yes. Dick?
We need to make sure that the notes or the minutes identify who was here because
Yes.
we're so big, we don't want any suspicion that we were a quorum.
Okay, and
So
I've identified everybody that's here.
Okay, we came in so slowly and broken up, I wasn't
Right.
sure if an actual roll call got done.
So here's who I have. We've got Sharon, we've got Kyle, we've got Dick, we've got Liz, we've got Bob, we've got Kevin, we've got Tom, and we've got Anne Marie. Okay?
Yep.
Tom,
Anne Marie, I want to congratulate you for a great job today and thank you very much.
oh, thank you. And Kyle,
What was I gonna ask? It's gone.
okay, so we just did I just said who was on it. Yeah. Sharon?
Did we vote on the motion to adjourn?
No,
And before
No,
we do
we
that,
didn't.
Anne Marie, can I make one very short statement?
Sure.
I just want to say that I think the makeup of this particular, in my opinion, the makeup of this particular committee is excellent. I think that we've got some folks on the committee that obviously have experience in the government, very practical experience, and that's going to be very valuable in kind of, I don't know,
Right.
providing that viewpoint or aspect. And I'm very glad that it's there. I might find myself further over on one side from time to time, wanting to get this done or that done. But I think overall, it's really a great makeup. I very much appreciate all the input.
Yes, we're very fortunate to have each other. Okay, we need a motion. We have a motion. Is everyone in favor of adjourning?
Yes.
Dick is on? Okay. Okay, so we'll see you this evening. Thank you very much for your participation.
I all
Thank you.
Thanks,
get this.
everyone. See you at 4.
Bye.